I think we're live. It's working, seemingly. The pets are in position. I think we're good. So thank you, Cassie. Super cool to have you here because the CSS stuff and animations in particular is just something that a lot of people are very excited about, but maybe don't know how to approach. And we had Louis here a while ago. I don't know, I don't know how to measure time anymore. Hi everyone in the chat. So today, Cassie, what are we going to be talking about today?
So we're going to be making a little animation using SVG and GreenSock. And I think one of the things that stop people from getting started with SVG is that it kind of sits in that middle ground between like design and development. Yeah. So if you're like previously a graphic designer or an illustrator, or you've got experience with vector graphics, it's like a really good start into coding. But I always hear from people that do front-end development but don't have any experience in like the design side of things, and they're always like, well, I want to do SVG stuff, but I can't, like, I don't know, I can't draw, I don't want to do like illustrations, I don't know where to start with that. So a really cool way to start is like text animation, because awesome. SVG is, it's awesome. Like you can add animation as like progressive enhancement on top of the graphic that's already there. And you can make text accessible. So you can have like headline text on your website that screen readers can read, but you can also animate it.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're going to play around with that a bit.
So we already have people very excited about the stream. Someone's very excited about your pom-pom earrings. So awesome. I'm gonna make it like a uniform from now on. Like everyone that comes to this stream needs to bring like pom-poms and glitter. That's amazing. But yes, speaking of experience, would you just like mind? I know like you're quite famous in the like designing world and Twitter worlds, but just like introducing yourself, like what you do and where can like people follow what you do.
Cool. So I am Cassie. I am a front-end developer at a company called ClearLeft, and we kind of just build standard websites, pattern libraries, not anything too overly hefty animation-wise. But animation is like my love, it's my hobby. And I used to do motion graphics, got a background in graphic design and motion graphics. And I actually got started before I did front-end development. I was doing creative development, which is basically making banner ads. So I actually learned how to use GreenSock before I learned JavaScript properly. I kind of did it the other way around.
Nice.
And then eventually I got bored of making banner ads because everyone has ad blockers. So you spend all day making something and no one ever sees it. So yeah. I was like, I want to make websites.
Awesome. Good transition, I think. And like, so, because this is a question that a lot of people ask me as well, but sometimes I also wonder myself, for someone that is not coming from a design background, but maybe works as a front-end developer and is maybe stronger in the JavaScript stuff, but is also expected to be proficient somehow in designing stuff, what would you recommend those people? For example, me. How do you go improving your design skills?
I think that it's actually a lot more like development than people realize. Like if you are trying to improve your dev skills, you'll kind of look at how other people have coded things, right? So you might look at open source stuff, you might go onto CodePen, you might read tutorials. All of that stuff exists in the design world as well. And you can kind of, rather than just like looking at websites and going, oh, I really like that, try and ask some questions about it. So be like, is it the color scheme that I like? Is it the font that I like? Is it maybe the like negative space in it that I like? And kind of like collate those examples. And then you'll kind of build up an idea of what things you like and what things you don't, and what things work when and what things don't.
Yeah, and I think it's like with like CSS and HTML both have like this really weird reputation of that they're really easy, and then people maybe don't spend a lot of time actually learning them properly, and we kind of do it haphazardly and like with lots of copy pasting, obviously not caring about accessibility. Like a lot of people just skip that. So it's really like there's a lot of debates as well, like people saying, ah, but that's not a coding language, you're not a coder if you do that. Like what? But yeah, it's really odd that we have in even in the tech industry, even just in the front end, like front end development, we have this split of like, no, you're a more designer person and you're a coder person. Whereas like it's just odd because we are all supposed to be doing the same thing, like providing great accessible experiences, and but that also involves like learning the basics and like not taking any shortcuts, because I feel like people do maybe take time to learn JavaScript maybe, but like with CSS and HTML, it's like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Like it's, you know, it's just inspect source, boom, 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 sure. So I think it's a really weird situation that when people just don't take it seriously and then just code this. Ugh.
I think it's a shame as well because if you don't delve into the intricacies of something because you think it's easy, then you don't find out all the cool things that it does.
Yeah.
And like CSS has got so many cool things now, but a lot of people don't know about them because they haven't delved deep enough into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. With SVG as well, you can do so many cool things with SVG.
So yeah, so speaking of cool stuff, shall we, do you want to share your screen and we can start doing the green sock? Well said. Purple heart. Clap, clap. The audience is appreciating.
Oh, so yeah, we're gonna kind of do this the whole way through. So right from like a graphics editor at the beginning, and kind of go through and export it and get it into CodePen and then do some animation.
Awesome.
So yeah, like this is the bit that most people get stuck with. I'm using Illustrator at the moment, but it has like Adobe Mafia pricing. So if you don't have Illustrator, Affinity Design is a really good place to start. It's like a once-off fee, but it's got all the stuff that Illustrator does. Like it does all the same things. So anything I'm explaining here, you could do the same thing in Affinity Designer.
Awesome.
So yeah, like one of the things that you can do in Illustrator is you can do some text, right? And you might not be able to draw or illustrate or that kind of thing, but everyone can go online and find a font that they like, and then download that font and then use that in a graphics editor.
I mean, as long as it's not like Comic Sans, right? Like that's forbidden, right?
Oh, yeah, so apparently it's good for people with dyslexia though, so like don't hate on it.
Okay, good argument. I'll use that from now on.
Accessible but terrible.
Okay.
Cool. So let's do a word. Someone give me like a 4, 5, 6 letter word.
Sorry. I was just reading a comment that said that CSS and HTML are Turing complete, like Alan Turing complete. So I don't know how much more real programming you need. I just thought that was a really good comment.
That's a good comment.
And then we have a watermelon comment. Is watermelon a good word?
We could do melon. I think watermelon's going to be a bit long, but we can do melon.
Okay.
Melon's a good word. Okay, cool. So right now, like this is text. So if we were to export this as an SVG, you would actually have text inside the SVG.
Right.
And that's cool because it's like accessible and everything, but you can't really do much with it in terms of animation. And also you've got the whole issue of having to serve the user a font, or do they have that font on their machine and all that kind of thing. So let me see, I usually do a keyboard shortcut, but that's not very good
for teaching purposes, I know.
Yeah, let me see how to do it without. Outline object. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna do a keyboard shortcut. So I did Command Shift and O, which is save as outlined. So
Okay.
there should be like an option somewhere to save it as outlined.
Okay.
But what this has done is it's changed what we had as text into actual shapes. So these are now like SVG paths.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is really cool because we can now like do stuff with it. And this like white box that you can see here, this is like your Illustrator artboard. And then when we save this out, this will be your view box. So this is the kind of space that you'll have around your SVG elements. And a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll kind of crop their artboard really, really close like this. But then when you start animating bits, they'll get cut off by the outside of the view box. So you kind of have to think through what you're going to do in advance and make sure you've got enough space around everything.
Right, but kind of like the size doesn't matter. I think because in SVG everything's like any scale, basically.
Exactly. So that's the cool thing about SVG is it's scalable vector graphics. So you can stretch SVGs out like really, really big, or you can make them really, really small.
Yeah.
And they'll still be kind of high resolution.
Yeah.
Any displays, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna export this out now. So again, any graphics editor will have an export option.
Okay.
We're gonna call this Melon. Melon.
Yeah, melon is a good word. The other one that then came also was cookie, which now I want a cookie. So I think melon. I think that's a better message.
Popular option, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna export this out. Let me see where it is. You get to see all my other things that I've got kicking around in this folder.
It looks very organized, Cassie.
I did a tidy up of my desktop before I came on here. So yeah, this is our SVG now. So if we open this up in a text editor, you can see that these are all of our parts here inside our SVG.
Yeah.
So what I usually do before I put this, I mean, this is quite a simple SVG. It's only got a few different parts here.
Sorry, before you go on, there's just a question. Can you say again what you did to the text to make it animatable?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I saved the text as outlines.
Okay. So it's Command K-O something.
Shift Command
O. Oh, Shift Command O. Okay, I'll just write that. Cool.
It will convert text to outlines so that you've got SVG path.
Cool.
Cool. So yeah, what I usually do before I put an SVG code into CodePen is I'll run it through SVG OMG.
Oh yeah. To shrink it, to optimize it, and like get rid of all the meta stuff.
Optimizes it. I'm gonna just put my code window. Here we go. So you can paste markup or you can drag files in. So I've already copied that. So there's our melon. Yeah, melon.
Woo!
And then you can have a little look at the markup and you can see the original markup and it kind of compresses it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can prettify it. The precision one is really good because you can make your SVG quite a lot smaller by taking down the precision. But if you take down the precision too much, some of your paths might lose a little bit of clarity around the edges. You might end up with kind of points that look a bit weird. I don't know whether I can. Yeah, you can't see so much with this one. So you don't want to take it down too much. You kind of, this is why I like SVG OMG, because you've got the visual side and then you've also got the code side. So you can kind of switch between the two of them and make sure that while you're optimizing it, you aren't kind of getting rid of anything important.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some really good bits here. And some quite dangerous bits as well. So here there's an option for merge paths. And merge paths will kind of compress some of your paths together. And that's what you don't want that for animation, because we've got all of our paths all nice and separate now. And if we were to choose that, then they'd all be joined together and we wouldn't be able to animate them individually.
Okay, but it's a safe thing to do if you're not thinking of animations. Like if you're just like squishing the different layers together, then it's fine to do that, right?
Yeah, that's a great thing to do, to kind of save on file size if you've got a static icon or something. If you're animating, it's all about keeping all of your layers individual so that you can move them around separately.
Nice. I didn't know. I will squish tomorrow everything that I have on my website. Yes.
You're a fan of squishing things.
Yes, just for the sake of it. Squishing, yes.
I'm trying to think whether there's anything that's also useful. Oh, this is a dangerous one. So we didn't actually do this for this SVG, but if you label your layers in a graphics editor, then it will usually save them out as IDs, which is really good if you're well, because SVG markup can be quite big and unruly.
Yeah.
And if you label everything properly in a graphics editor, then you don't have to sift through your code and work out which bit is which. But if you were to click this, then you can see here it's getting rid of the IDs. So you could go through and label everything all nicely and then accidentally just remove all of your IDs, which I definitely haven't done lots of times.
Okay. So I guess note to self is like always keep an original just in case somewhere lying around, because I'm a big fan of like, no, I don't need to save that. It's just that, you know, so yeah, keep an original. Good.
Cool. So I'm going to copy this now, and then we're going to open up CodePen. So I think, well, there's one person watching this already. I've got it on professor mode. So
should I share the link you sent me, yeah?
Share.
Yeah, is it okay to share it, Cassie, in the chat? Yeah?
Cool. So I thought that I'd share this just because on stream sometimes animation is a bit laggy because it's doing a screen share and then going through Twitch and everything.
So is it okay for me to share the link then in the chat?
Definitely.
Awesome. Cool.
Cool. So yeah, now we've got our SVG in CodePen. I'm just going to change the behavior of this so that I have to run it in order to actually play the animation. So otherwise it's just going to be updating all the time.
Cool.
Cool. So yeah, we've got our little melon here now. Let me just. So the first thing, let's do accessibility first. So that's the most important thing. So if you're doing a text animation and you want a screen reader to be able to access the text still, then you need to put a title element inside your SVG.
So
and then
is that then kind of like an area label for it?
Yeah, so most browsers will actually just look for the title element. So for the majority of browsers, I think it's Chrome and Firefox and not Internet Explorer. But I think they'll look for the title element and then that will get read out for the screen reader. But there's a couple of browsers that don't just look for the title element. So you also, to be on the safe side, have to do an ARIA labeled by.
Yeah, this is again really cool because it's when you learn about animations and SVGs, you don't like. I've never heard this about adding a title or ARIA labeled by, and I normally really try to design accessible stuff, but it's just that information normally is not emphasized.
Yeah, so that's really good, and you can see now in the little tooltip that it says melon, so the screen reader was going to be looking at it. Nice. And know what text would say, which is super important if you're using it as like headline copy on your website.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So yeah, kind of right now we've just got a bunch of shapes. So what can we do with a bunch of shapes that's really cool and kind of unique to SVG? So we're going to have a little look at masking, because SVG basically has all of these super cool, like they're kind of like baked in superpowers that it's not to do with GreenSock, it's not to do with like CSS animation, but you can do really cool animations with SVG because SVG is capable of doing these really cool things. So you have like SVG filters and clipping and masking and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, in order to make a mask.
We just have one question. Is it possible to get just the melon text without the white background?
Just the melon text.
Without the white background.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's actually a really good point. So the background color there isn't actually from Illustrator. The background color there is just the browser background.
Oh, so it's transparent actually. So SVG is like on top of a transparent background.
Yeah, on top of a transparent background.
Sorry, and another question was is the title and the area labeled by, is that like an alt text for an image? Like how you put an alt text in image, is that what this text title is for the SVG?
Yeah, exactly. So it's if you were using a screen reader and you were looking through a website, you'd be able to see what images are by looking at alt text, but also you'd be able to read the text. So if you had like a heading that was like "Welcome to my website" and it was just normal text, a screen reader could read that. But if you replace that text with an SVG, you have to make sure that the screen readers can still read that text, because otherwise it's just going to see it as an image and it will just skip straight over it, and then they'll lose the information.
Yeah, that's a good point and a great question. Thank you. Keep them coming.
Really good question. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're not actually going to use this as the main part of our SVG. We're actually going to use it as a mask. And a mask, you have clipping and masking in SVG, and clipping is more like cutting things out. So a clip path will use the underlying geometry of paths. And then masking is kind of more like collage. So with masks, anything that's behind a white pixel, you can see through it. Anything that's behind a black pixel, you can't. And then anything that's behind a pixel that's a gradation of those colors will have like less or more ability to see through it. So you'll kind of see 50% of the way through a gray pixel, for example.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of those things that's best explained by looking at it. So.
We have a request if we can put an outline over the melon task to see how much space it takes, if you don't mind, just once.
Yeah, sure thing. So that would be exactly the same. Oh, and I've just put it in a mask.
Right.
You'll be able to see it because it's currently in a mask. But yeah, that's the SVG.
Okay.
If I take it out of the mask quickly, you'll be able to see it now.
Nice.
Here we go.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. So we are going to make a mask. We're going to reference the mask in a second, so we're also going to give it an ID of our mask, so we can reference it. And then you might have noticed that I took out the group, so everything was kind of all of these paths were inside a group element, which is it's like a div. So that's SVG lands div. SVG is an XML-based markup language like HTML, but it's kind of slightly different. It's like alternate universe version of HTML. So it's like HTML for graphics rather than HTML for elements, which is just HTML. The text.
So why so why did you remove it, the group element?
Yeah, I've removed the group element because anything that we're using inside a mask needs to be a direct child.
Okay, yeah.
So if we've got a mask with a group inside, it's like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah,
so make sure that it's a direct child.
Awesome.
Cool. So right now, if we save this, what will happen is that we can't see anything. Right, so there's nothing there, and that's because anything that's inside a mask or a clip path isn't directly rendered. So it's there and we can use it, but it's not actually being used in our SVG right now. It's not being rendered.
Okay.
So what we need to do is we need to actually apply this mask onto something so that we can see it. So let's add let's add an image. Oh, I don't know where that's gone into another line.
So this image is like, you mean IMG, or is that a different image?
Yes, that's a really good point. In SVG, so it's the same as what I was saying about groups and divs, kind of alternate universe HTML. You do images in SVG kind of the same way that you do with HTML, but slightly different. So this is the same as an image tag in HTML, but it's in SVG land. Okay. So rather than IMG, we write image, and then we have href and the height and width and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Oh wait, got a little tab that's in the wrong way. So yeah, let's go into Giphy and get ourselves an image, because that's another cool thing. So you can use masks to mask GIFs in SVG. And you can also use GIFs to mask other GIFs. I've made CodePen of using a GIF to mask a GIF inside an SVG, which is really meta and weird.
Yeah, I bet.
So, let's have a look for some melons. Really hope, yeah, we're going to get booed.
Yes, like
PG-13,
yes.
Okay, we're not going to choose a boo.
No, it's good. Yeah, I think this is appropriate for everyone.
Okay, so I'm just going to change this background color back again, and let's put.
Which does so do you know the podcast My Dad Wrote a Porno?
Oh yes, I do know that.
Right, so I was so it's super funny, right? And I had, like, during the COVID times, I organized a work Zoom call. Let's listen to My Dad Wrote a Porno and laugh and stuff. And I was like, I don't know why, but I went. It was like on not a Zoom, but whereby another thing, and I needed a background, and I just went to Google and I put, like, I wanted to write My Dad Wrote a Porno wallpaper or something, but I just wrote porno wallpaper, and and it's like this really HD stuff on my big screen that is just. It's not recommended. It's really not. Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that you need to think.
HD boobs.
Yes. So I'm glad that this worked out nicely.
Me too. Cool. So now we've got our lovely melon, not melons, just our lovely melon. And we want to use our text here to mask it. Okay. So we've given it an ID. ID equals our mask. So we're going to use that ID to reference it, and we do that by saying mask equals URL, and then
I'm at this point hypnotized by the watermelon. Like, I'm diving down into the watermelon animation GIF sphere.
Yeah, it's pretty hypnotizing.
Yeah, it's good though.
Dum, dum, dum. Okay, so that hasn't worked, and that's because we don't have any colors on our mask items. So I said that clipping was kind of like chopping things out, but masking, you have to have colors on your pixels in order to work out what it can see through. So if we change the colors of our parts here, let's make one black. That's O, isn't it? It's black. I think you can even just do words. Let's make one gray.
I think you can.
We'll try just a word. So now we've got some of our parts are white, some of them are, well, one of them's black and one of them's grey.
Tum tum tum. Yes! Whoa! That's so cool.
Yeah, so you can see this is the white one. This is also a white one. We've got a black one here that you can't see through. This is a grey one. And then this is another white one. Let's make this a little bit bigger.
Wow. This looks like a very expensive animation that took you a long time to make, but it's just a watermelon GIF in the background.
It's probably going to be better than what we do with GreenSuck, and then everyone's going to be like, bring back the melon.
Someone's asking, how did you get the cursive fonts, like in the CodePen?
I think that's actually just in your CodePen settings.
Okay.
I think you can choose what font you want.
Okay.
I think this one's Dank Mono.
Yeah, classic.
It's a good one. So yeah, now we've got a whole melon.
Wow.
We can't see the very end of the melon, but I think that's because the GIF runs out rather than the text running out. So yeah. And
that was just so we removed the group thing, wrapped it in a mask instead, gave the fill color to the different parts, and then we. Are you googling melons again? Okay, gradient. Okay, good.
But yeah, you can get really cool effects just by choosing, some fun GIFs and then just chucking them behind some text. So maybe melons isn't the most aesthetic. Oh, error.
Oh, it was the wrong link?
Wrong link.
Oh yeah, you didn't do the GIF, yeah, okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, really pretty.
Yeah, really pretty.
Yeah, and really simple. And like I said, you can, because in a mask, masks are just looking through like black pixels or white pixels. You can use a GIF to mask another GIF. So we could do that really quickly before we move on to the animation.
Okay.
Just gonna love this stuff.
Let's do it. Because yeah, the chat is like really impressed. So yeah, let's give the chat more of what they want.
Yeah. Okay, so say search for I'm on it. My phone's like, what would you like me to do? So yeah, let's choose. We choose this big swirly boy.
Yeah. And does this get like for performance reasons? Does this get heavy, or is it okay?
It's the same as like using a normal GIF would. Really. Okay. So like the same with images, you'd have to choose a GIF that isn't too large. Mm-hmm. You can also like choose GIFs that only repeat a few times. Yeah. That's always better for performance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this out because we don't want to use that as a mask. So now, rather than having our melon parts here, we've got mask with an image inside, and then that's our black and white image. And then we're going to use it to mask another image.
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's like
Yeah.
remixing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So like SVG masking, you can do so many cool things just by kind of playing around.
Huh. So do you have like a, are you a fan of these hypnotic gifts? Like, because
I keep choosing hypnotic ones.
yes, because I feel like, okay, Cassie, whatever you say, this is
Everyone is enjoying the stream. You are feeling very, very happy.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, let's get away from gifts. Enough gifts now.
Aw.
Let's do a bit of green stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to, we want something to mask because we don't have any elements to mask right now. So we're just going to do a rect. So a rect is like, SVG has, because it's for graphics, there's all sorts of things like circles and rectangles and polygons and paths and all of that kind of stuff that you can draw different shapes with. And I'm not going to be hand coding any SVG paths today because I'm not that. I don't think anyone can do that other than like Sarah Swaydan, maybe.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
But this is like, I thought, again, coming from JavaScript and not doing a lot of, like, I just feel like I should be, like, I would never go from going to Photoshop and doing a graphic there, exporting it as an SVG. I would like find a way to generate paths and somehow like just make it very complicated. Just, I don't know why.
I think that there's a healthy balance between doing some stuff. Like there's definitely a reason why graphics editors exist.
Yeah.
So it's to do some of the stuff in a graphics editor. You don't want to cause extra headaches for yourself. Like if you're drawing a really crazy intricate path, do it in a graphics editor.
Yeah.
But it's always good to know how paths are put together and how the stuff works under the hood, because then that means that you can manipulate it.
Yeah.
So if you do everything in a graphics editor and you don't learn what it's actually doing under the hood, then when you want to animate it, you don't really know what you can animate. So it's like a healthy balance.
But would you say that, let's say, a well-rounded front-end developer, how deep should they go? Because I feel like we need to know so many things, right? And not often do you work with SVGs, actually. I mean, maybe like if you design something from scratch, but generally, like you don't, like once they're there, like they're there. So how much in depth do you think?
I very much feel like understanding the basics of SVG is fine, but then if you enjoy it, then learn more about it. I think it's impossible for someone to learn all of the things that we need to learn in front-end development nowadays. Like I myself, I'm not super interested in like the back of the front end, like the more like business logic-y build tool side of things, and that's fine. I'm just not gonna learn as much of that as other people might do. I'm going to learn like the basics that I need to get by, but I'm going to focus on the stuff that I actually enjoy. I think everyone should do the same thing. Don't feel like you have to learn everything. Burn yourself out. Cool. So let's choose some colors. I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite toys. So this is Colorbox by Lyft. They made this like really cool GUI, and it gets color steps between any color that you want to choose. So if you're not like really good with the like visual side of things, a lot of people can struggle with colors. And Colorbox is great because you can say how many steps you want. So say we're going to do like 4 or 5 steps, and you can choose the saturation and the brightness. So I like really vaporwavy colors, so we're going to go a bit vaporwavy here.
So this is like a great first step when you're generating a palette or something, right?
Yeah, I find this really useful if I'm doing data viz as well. If you want to kind of have random colors, you can like create an array of colors that look nice and this, and then you can just feed it into your data viz.
So we have a comment that says like the people really appreciate that you're sharing your process of like the tools that you use, and that is very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is you see people that are like, you know, more experienced with stuff, and you learn so many little tips and tricks along the way that are really helpful.
Well, that, and also so let's say I would Google, and then there will be like 20 of these kind of websites, or like palette generators, or like just, then you don't know, like when you're approaching something new, it's very difficult to discern which resources are good, and like that they encourage good practice. So this is definitely is good. Yeah.
Yeah, there's another one that I really like, while we're on the colors thing, called Coolers. And you just hit the space bar once it's loaded.
Coolers.
Yeah, and you can just carry on hitting the space bar until you get a color palette that you like.
Nice.
So yeah, that's a really handy one.
Yeah, because it's good to know that there's this kind of shortcuts, because like for me it's very, very difficult to start something from a blank page. It's like, okay, now go. Like design this, and it's very like, I'm really good when I have a certain framework or code base to work in, fine. But when someone says, okay, now do this from scratch, it's like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. How does everyone feel about those colors? Do we like them?
Yeah, so let's see what people say. So do we like the colors? Let's just wait a couple of seconds, because I think our conversation is like 10-15 seconds ahead of the Twitch stream. Yes, they match your outfit perfectly. So yes.
Yeah, so you can, once you've got a series of colors that you like, I'm very predictable with my colors. I pretty much always go for this exact color scheme, which is why it matches my outfit. But yeah, this tool is really cool because you can get the colors like as RGB JSON, or you can get like hex JSON out of it as well. So it's just like really handy if you're building something like data vizy or generative, because you can just bonk those colors into an object, and then use them. So yeah, I'm just gonna put them on a different screen.
Very nice, because I would be going like one by one, copy it, probably forget the pound sign or like whatever. It's like nice.
Cool. So now we should have a rectangle.
Nice.
And that rectangle is the height and width of our SVG. And that's because we haven't done our mask reference on this. So what we're going to do is, because we're going to have a whole bunch of different rectangles, we're going to put these in a group. So like I was saying before, that's like a div in SVG world. And then we're going to use the mask on this group. Mask equals, I think it was our mask, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was being creative.
But at least you know how to share, so that's good. It's like my mask.
Ellen.
Oh.
Ellen back. Excellent. Cool. So yeah, I guess let's get into some green stuff. So this is my starter pen that I have for whenever I do GreenSock animation. And it has here the link to the GreenSock library. And then it also has like a timeline scrubber. This was made by a guy called Chris Gannon. It's not actually the green sock timeline scrubber, it's like a different one, just because it's more minimal and it's a little bit easier to use. So we'll use that in a bit to kind of look at our debug our timeline.
Okay.
But if you didn't have it included, you'd just search for like green sock and then you get green sock up there, and then you can just click it.
Very cool.
So yeah, I'm going to ignore these bits for now. And we're just going to do like one simple tween. So green sock is basically just a like very performant property manipulator. So it can take whatever number you give it and just change it into another number over a like space of time. So that's basically all animation is really. It's just changing a property over a duration.
Yeah.
And that's why you can use like GreenSock isn't just for SVG. You can use it on HTML DOM elements, or you can use it on Canvas. You can use it on 3JS, like all sorts of things. So it's just kind of an all-purpose animation library.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you can do what can you do with GreenSock and just HTML?
Anything that you could think of, really. You could kind of use it to manipulate elements around, change colors. A lot of the kind of very jazzy awards sites that have all sorts of flashy things flying everywhere are using GreenSock.
Huh, good to know.
Yeah. So yeah, we start off by saying GSAP. So that's just saying, hey, GreenSock, we want to do something. And there's a few different methods that you can call. The main ones are GSAP2 and GSAP from. And that's basically saying, hey, GreenSock, we want you to move this element from this place to another place. Or we want you to move this element from where it is currently to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either moving it from somewhere to where it is, or from where it is to somewhere. So we're going to say GSAP from, and then we're going to get this rectangle here. So we will call it swipe.
Swipe, okay.
Yeah, so we're going to get this rectangle. And underneath the hood, GreenSock's using document.query selector. Mm-hmm. So you can put whatever you would put in CSS in there, and then it'll get the elements. So we do swipe, and then we can just say, maybe we want to go from left. So maybe should we move it or scale it? Oh, let's scale it. That's fun.
Yeah.
So scale X. We'll give it a duration as well. And then give it an ease. So there's a whole bunch of different eases you can use. We're going to use like a sine ease that's nice and fluid. Mm-hmm. Cool. So if we were to save that.
Wow.
We've got a nice little swiping animation.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's really simple.
Yeah. Huh. Very cool.
Awesome. And GreenSock, it kind of allows you to do other things, like more complicated things quite easily as well. So what we can do is you can do stagger animations. So if we were to make 5 rectangles, right? I'm going to get our colors that we chose earlier. Mm-hmm. Put all of these colors in. So if you wanted to do staggering animations with CSS, you'd kind of have to go through each of your elements and then add like an animation delay.
Yeah.
Each of them. So you might maybe go like nth child 2 animation delay, nth child 3, and kind of set the animation delay for each of them. But GreenSock allows you to do this with stagger. So we can say stagger and say maybe like 0.5 seconds.
Oh, wow. That's very pretty.
Yeah, super pretty. And then a cool thing about stagger is that you can pass in more options into stagger. So rather than just giving it like a time, you can pass in an object. And then in that object, you could say each 0.5. And then that will do what was happening before. So it will be 0.5 seconds before each swipe. And then another option is amount, and that would share this time out over all of them. So rather than 0.5 seconds in between each one, it would be 0.5 seconds for all of the stagger to take place. So if we play this again, it will do it really fast.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty cool. And then what we can also do is, rather than at the moment, it's scaling the elements from the left-hand side. That's because that's the default transform origin. So if we were to change the transform origin, I always spell transform origin wrong. It's like my worst thing. And change that to 50%, 50%. You might recognize some of this from CSS. Yeah. So a lot of the things that you'll use in GreenSock, like transform origin, it's the same as CSS. It's just camel case instead of add case. That's the one. Yeah. So now it should go from the center.
Oh,
yay!
That's so pretty.
So we can make this kind of go over a little bit longer amount of time. Whoa. Yeah, so I said that there's different settings that you've got for staggers. You can kind of see it best on this GreenSock page. They've got a little example. And if you're learning GreenSock as well, the GreenSock docs are really, really good because they've got so many like examples of stuff right there. So yeah, for example here, you can pass in whether you want it to stagger from the end of an array or from the center, or even like randomize.
Why not?
Yeah. So you could pass in all of these different things into your stagger function. So we could say from random, and rather than going through the DOM order of these swipes, it would do a random order. So we wouldn't be able to really see a huge difference because the colors will just come in a different order.
Yep.
But if you wanted to do that, you could.
And so let's say that you have a client that has like they want you to animate this nice lettering for the hero section of their website. What would be your go-to like GreenSock animation, or like what's your favorite let's impress the client move?
Like staggers are really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more about learning what you can do in SVG, like learning what properties you can actually kind of play around with.
Yeah.
And what's possible.
No, definitely. And it's still, I don't know why the animation still has this. I talked to Louis about that as well. That as a beginner, you approach animations with sort of caution because you feel like somehow you're gonna mess up and it's gonna get really heavy, and I don't know, also inaccessible. And I feel like you need to have some sort of experience under your belt before you can do these animations that are tasteful. Because as well, like seeing a website once and this animation is really pretty, I love it, but then seeing like 10 times and it's like, oh my god, this animation again, like it's very difficult to design something that is tasteful and memorable and performant and accessible. So in a way it is good that because it feels like GreenSock is this really powerful tool that can be again used, like, you know, if you don't put a lot of thought into it, it can be very bloated or heavy, or maybe you like very quickly can get out of your hand because it's not, maybe you didn't read the docs, you don't really know what you're doing, and you just like, again, you know, because like a lot of times with libraries and stuff, you don't maybe necessarily dive into it, and you just write something, copy paste something, and you're not sure what it's actually doing. So it's, I don't know, like I still feel I need to be careful around animation for some
I
reason.
think that it is definitely a thing that with great power comes great responsibility, right? But
Yes.
I think that with anything, you have to be bad at something for ages before you're good at it.
Yeah.
And CodePen is the perfect place for that.
Yeah.
So like playing around on CodePen and breaking loads of things and making loads of really, really horribly unperformant animations.
Yes.
I think that's where you start, and then you gradually kind of learn what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, because that's the issue with design, is like that everyone can see that it's wrong, you know, which can be a bit intimidating. Whereas like you can hide a lot of your code that maybe other people can't, you know, like that is not actually design related, and it's just, yeah, like you say, logic or something. You can just hide that, or a lot of people won't see it. But when you do design, everyone, and not just your tech team, and they should, but people will have opinions, and like it just feels, I don't know.
It is very like forward facing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a thing. I live in East Sussex, and there's a word here called bungaroosh, and basically houses, like really really old houses in Sussex, they ran out of building supplies at some point, and they just started shoving like rubbish, like anything they could find, into walls as cladding, and then just putting like actual building materials over the top of that. So if you break down the walls of all of these old Sussex houses, there's just like rubbish in the walls.
Huh.
And we always use that term for like bad coding, like bungaroosh, when you're just putting anything you can in, and like no one's gonna see it, it's just fine.
Nice, bungaroosh.
It's a pretty funny term.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, someone says they love seeing CodePens that are so ridiculous that they need to reach out to CodePen team and ask why it's breaking, because they made it so heavy, I guess, that the whole CodePen broke. But yeah, I think it, like you said, it's a great platform for experimenting with stuff, sharing stuff. I think there's a lot of, as it's everywhere in design and development, of the whole culture of borrowing and modifying for your own nefarious purposes, which with proper attribution, I think it's fine. But yeah, definitely. That's why it's called a pen, right? Because you're like you're inside nicely with a fence. Nothing is gonna leak out.
Not like out on the real world.
Awesome.
Can we do one last little animation on the text elements then?
Let's do it.
Do a little bounce. So yeah, let's have some of our letters kind of bouncing down as well. So we've got our paths here. Let's give them all class.
I'm just gonna share your website with everyone because it's amazing. I know that probably everyone has already seen it. I have definitely exploded those pencils many times.
So much fun. I had so much fun building that website.
How long did it take you?
About 3 weeks. I was furloughed, so I had 3 weeks of furlough to work on it.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I'm redesigning the landing page for and because you're doing your website is based on Andy Bell's 11T, right?
Yeah, it's
right.
Hillier.
Yeah, so I took his course, the 11T from scratch. Yeah, because you did it as well. You reviewed it first, right? Or yeah. So I was also one of the early reviewers. So cool. And I got super in love with Eleventy that I convinced my team to also use it for the landing page. So now I'm doing everything in Eleventy, and it's really, really cool.
I just wish that I could use Eleventy for everything. It's just so nice. It feels like how the web should be. It's so uncomplicated and just like HTML, templating, and CSS, and you've got your JavaScript. It's all static files. It's so nice.
Yeah.
We don't have to think about like React and frameworks and all the build tools and everything.
It's so pretty, and like I'm just stuffing everything in those global data files. Like, I'm not gonna hard code this. I'm just gonna put it there into a nice object, and then I'm gonna loop over it, and like.
Yeah. So right, I just did a little tween. So this should hopefully just animate them in from the top, doing a little stagger as well.
Let's see it.
1 second. So let's just see whether that will work.
Oh, it's like a dream.
Like a dream. So another cool ease that you can do with GreenSock is we've got this sign ease, which is really like slow and stuff, but I really love elastic eases. Elastic eases are super fun. They're really bouncy. And you've got 2 numbers that you pass in. Like the first one is kind of the amount of elasticness, like think about like a rubber band, and then the second one is like the springiness. So it's like how tense that band is.
Okay.
So yeah, let's give this a pretty standard setting. Give that a
go. Someone's saying that they're looking forward to the next CodePen meetup. What is a CodePen meetup, Cassie?
Oh, I did a CodePen meetup in Brighton a couple of times. CodePen, I've stopped doing CodePen meetups now though. It's really sad.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was quite a while ago. They kind of sponsored meetups, so you can get like pizza and they send some merch, and then people just show off what CodePens they're working on and stuff.
And pizza, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I missed it on the bouncy effect.
Well, the bouncy effect.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that.
Oh, that is like nice and playful.
So if you made it this first number a bigger number, then it would bounce down more. Whoa.
Nice.
And then if you make this really small, I think this is the right way. I think if the smaller it is, the more springy it is.
Nice.
So that's a bit intense.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like you see it once, right? And it's like, yeah, it's cool. But then, yeah, with animations, yeah, you have to think about how it's gonna look like the 50th time when someone sees it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like even like the Pixar, for example, the Pixar animation, you know, the lamp, the playful lamp at the beginning of Pixar movies. It's like, okay, it's nice, it's cute, but I don't want to see it again. So like I need some time.
I think it's always like you have to I'll often, if I'm doing animations on a site, I'll have it play on first page load and then just save like in local storage that the user's been on the site, and then you just don't play it again until such a time has passed. Like if you've got a really intense animation.
Yeah.
Like a loading page or something. I'm just going to add like a little, right, so GreenSock's got quite a cool thing where you can do randomness, like just in a string like this. So rather than passing in like a number for rotation like that, you can do like random, and you can say between like -20 and 20 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And then the letters will come in at different angles, and you can do that with anything. So you could say like from a random direction.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Pretty good. And then you can add animations to a timeline. So right now we've just got tweens that are by themselves. But the main cool thing about GreenSock is that you can add things to timelines, and then things will go one after another. So they'll have like a relationship to each other. You could also say like start at the beginning, because in this case we want them all to start at the beginning. And then this is the timeline scrubber I was talking about. So I've added the tweens to a timeline here. So const timeline, gsap.timeline. And then I'm using Chris Gannon's timeline scrubber. And it allows you to scrub through. So you can debug your animations. So if something looks funny at the halfway point, you can kind of go through and figure out what it is. And then if you double click, it pauses it, and then you can check out your DOM elements.
So people are saying that's so smart, Cassie. Oh, dang, this is awesome. But also we have a comment. So I noticed that when using CSS keyframe animation within an SVG and using that as a background image, like you showed in the first view box, it seems the browser cached that animation on reload, but re-navigating to the page plays it again. Any insight on why? And have you seen that behavior?
Using SVG animation, we're using CSS animation in an SVG in a background image.
Yes, like in the first example. So they would cache it, and then when you re-navigate somewhere else, it plays it again.
Yeah, I think that's just to do with how background images background images are cached. But I wasn't doing CSS animation in an SVG in the first example. That was just GIFs in the mask. But yeah, if you've got CSS animation in an SVG in a background image, then the browser's gonna cache that image, I think. Okay. You can also put CSS animation in an image tag, and then I don't think that's cached. One of them's cached, one of them's not cached. Not sure which way around it is.
Okay, cool.
That answer it.
We'll see. It's like, yeah, it's was a question from Stephanie. She just did Stephanie Eccles. You know, she did the style stage, the new CSS Zen Gardens thing.
I'm like, that's on my to-do list. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, she says, "Yep, thanks, makes sense." So that's great. Good answer. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more exploding stuff. And oh, the lamp! I love the lamp on the website when you do the night mode, and like there's like a flickering.
Night mode. That was really difficult because I just wanted to do a cute little animation, but night mode's actually really hard because you've got user preferences on people's machines, and then you've also got, if they come to your site and they change it to dark mode, like, do you want that to override their user preferences? Or like, which one do you respect? Do you respect user preferences or what they've just put into your website? And I got in a bit of a muddle with all that logic.
It looks great. I keep switching it on and off. I don't care about the dark mode or light mode, but the light effect, the flickering lamp is so pretty.
Awesome.
So is there, when you hover, there's a timeline either above or below the animation, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of attached to your cursor here.
Yeah.
And you can see what time you're on all the way through. So what we could do is we could have, okay, we want to start the letter animation at 2 seconds in, and this one at 0 seconds in. And then, oh yeah. I started the swipes before the letters are visible, so obviously we won't be able to see them. But you can see that it starts at 2 seconds in there. I'm not sure what that little line is.
We have a question about any general performance tips
for SVG.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tricky because SVG isn't hardware accelerated in Chrome. It's hardware accelerated in Firefox and Safari, I think. But I think that the general rule of thumb is if you're animating lots and lots of things, or you're animating stuff continuously, then go for Canvas. Don't use SVG. So SVG should be your default choice because you can make SVG accessible and progressively enhanced. Like if you don't have JavaScript and you're using an SVG graphic, it will just fall back to like a non-animated SVG graphic. Or if you're using CSS animation, it will still animate. Whereas if you're doing animation in Canvas, it's just like a black box of no JavaScript. So always try to use SVG, and then if you can't, if it's too many elements, then kind of go the Canvas route. Also, animating certain things are less performant than others. So using transforms is always better than using like the actual geometry of the shapes itself. So if you look at like these rects, they've got an X and Y position, right? So with GreenSock, we could get this X position and we could use that to animate it. But that's not going to be as performant as transforms. And also animating elements that are solid, that have solid colors, that's more performant than opaque colors, because then you have to calculate pixels behind. Filters, animating filter properties, that's very, very unperformant, unfortunately, because it's lots of fun. So like go wild on CodePen, do all the filter animations, but don't put them in the real world.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are the best tips.
Very cool. Wow, and like people keep asking if this is recorded. So apparently this was a hit series, Cassie.
Hey. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Did we manage to make an animation that's better than the watermelon though? That's the question.
I will wait for the chat to answer. So chat, are we happier with the the GIF animation, GIF animated melon, or the one with very pretty color palette that was handcrafted by Cassie? So
melon now, aren't they?
Speak loudly, but yes, I think for sure, for me, it's the second one. It's a clear winner. It's, first of all, it's not Giphy, so it's not Facebook owned, right? So that's already a clear winner. Cool.
Cool.
Cool. Then can you stop sharing the screen so that we can just say our nighty nights? Because for once, I think most of my guests were not in Europe, so this is nice. They were kind of almost neighboring. Because I used to live in. We just moved less than a year ago from Milton Keynes.
Oh, cool!
Exciting, Milton Keynes.
He was born very near there.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's you know, it's Milton Keynes.
It's not very exciting.
No, but we loved it. We loved it. We felt like it's UK's best kept secret. Like it's so green, full of parks. We have a dog, so that's really nice. And there's the computer museum where we held all the meetups and felt very cool because like Alan Turing, like the computer, you know, like was just coded here.
Maybe it was like computer.
Yeah. But Brighton, I think Brighton has a really strong coder community. Like the code bar is very strong there. Clear Left, yes, I've heard of you. Yeah.
We've got a very cool creative coding community as well called Brighton Generator, which is now online. And if anyone wants to join Brighton Generator, I will post a link on my Twitter after this.
Okay.
It's now just like a Slack channel, and we do a few little online meetups.
So question, is there a Laurie Rowan print in the back?
Oh yeah, there is. Awesome. Hey, Laurie Rowan's my favorite.
Wow, that is good eyesight. I can
It's
see.
like these cute little guys who look really grumpy, but they're adorable, but they're just like, yeah, super grumpy.
I can
Eating
see.
ice cream, but like really sad about eating ice cream.
You do like your pastel colors. People are really excited, very happy. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Learned a lot. Yeah, I think we will stop while we're winning. Um, so thank you very much, Cassie, for
Plasters either.
and for people that want to get in touch with you on Twitter, or what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably Twitter, or email. My email's also on my website, which is cassie.codes.
Let me just share your Twitter. But yeah, so I think that was amazing. I'm very happy with myself and mostly with you.
Having me on.
Yeah, no, it was really really cool. You're very very good at explaining stuff. And making animations in SVG a little bit less intimidating, I think, for not just for me, but for a lot of people out there as well. Yeah, so with that, we shall bid you good night. I'll be taking a break a little bit from streaming. I think I deserve some vacation, maybe. I don't know, maybe. If someone convinces me to come on Twitch, I will be like, yes, of course. Yes, answer now, think later. But yeah, so thank you, Cassie. Thank you to the chat. And we will see you around. Bye.